Welcome to DJNTV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby! Yeah. Good evening. We are back once again because we were here last week. So it's like a couple of weeks in a row now, like multiple times together. Wow. We should do this on a regular basis.
Yeah, we should make it a weekly show.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean,
we
it
should
would be
name
like
it after a night of the week.
it could, and it would, but we have to follow Big Daddy all the time, and how do you follow up that energy?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, Big Daddy should go after me because I'm like the warm-up band, I'm not even the opener. I'm like the band that plays in the pub before you get to the show,
And of course, people don't see before we go live, and Big Daddy tonight, it's been a busy time of the year for him, and he's doing a lot of things, and he had a doctor's visit and found out that he's 10 years cancer-free. Congratulations there, Big Daddy. Love you there. But he's tired, he's just kind of, and as a true performer does, as soon as the lights come on and the energy level went from here to like way up here. It's so neat to watch how that happens. Fun stuff. So Ben, I've got a few questions here that have been sent in, and we want to do a few of those questions, and we're going to have breaks in these between the questions tonight, so that way we can put them into individual videos, so that way when people are searching for these types of answers, we have the answers or questions. Well, we have the questions and answers. Yeah, that's it. We got it.
Yeah, questions and answers. It's funny you mentioned Big Daddy being a professional and being able to turn it on, because I was just literally fighting a yawn at that moment, and I'm like,
that would be bad.
I'm just trying to keep my eyes open right now. I don't have the chops that he does. I'm not a professional entertainer. I DJ'd for 15 years and probably 1,000 shows, but I'm not. That doesn't put me in the same class as him, and I'm just a humble tech. I'm a sound guy, so I'm over here. I'm like, I just hope I could stay awake.
Yeah, we usually got to, everyone's looking that direction at the sound guy, so we can, yawn if we want to.
We wear black for a reason,
There's
so
a
you
reason,
don't see us.
Yeah, that's for sure. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put markers in, and then we'll be doing the questions. So we're going to put the first marker in, and then we'll get to our first question tonight.
No, it's been a lot of time.
It has been. Yeah, you've been a busy guy. So I was actually surprised to see you at the house. But let's get to our first question tonight. Somebody was looking for
Thanksgiving. So
somebody was looking for with uplighting. They're looking to find basically the best option when it comes to getting the best colors for their uplighting. And I think that they're looking. They've seen a lot of pictures of some really
There's the first
song. They've seen pictures out there that have been less than spectacular when it comes to the actual color and color saturation. So if a person really wants to do it and do it the best they possibly can, what would you recommend them to do?
Well, I think this might be an informative but not helpful answer.
Okay.
I think the first thing we should do is look at uplights for what they are, which typically are a DJ level fixture, and I think it would be worthwhile to compare those to a professional fixture. And the reason for me saying that is, if we think about professional lighting applications, theater, stage, other places where color rendering and color matching and light consistency really matter, it's a very different world. In terms of the light engines and subsequently the cost, that what I think someone might regard an uplight as expensive wouldn't even scratch the surface of getting a professional light for like theater. So let me do this. Let me show you a document that is used to measure light output. Mm-hmm. Called a photometric report, and they come in varying levels of detail. That's a pretty good indicator of the quality of the light that you're buying. And notably, if you look at most DJ level fixtures, you're not going to find a photometric report. And that's very telling right there. Just kind of like, well, it is what it is, so to speak. So let me just share this real quick. Let me pull this right quick here. Okay, so we see this document here.
Yep.
Okay. So this is a photometric report on a professional stage light, and you can see there's a tremendous amount of detail here. And let's go real quick up to the very, kind of towards the top here. So, here we can see they're measuring the light. This is, with the medium lens at 5600 kelvins. And here we can see the spectral distribution. You can see the color rendering index. And then we get into some of these other things. We'll get into, the candela and lux diagrams, excuse me, and the, hue and saturation. So you can see there's a tremendous amount of information here for a lighting designer who wants to really make precise colors. This light has been manufactured and measured to very exacting specifications.
Okay.
In fact, if we get down to the bottom here, and I'm sure that you want a simpler answer to your question, and I'm going to try
Oh,
to give you
I
one.
will. I will try to have you. I'll try to interpret this for our viewers here. Just keep going. Just keep going.
All right. So like here, for example, this is individual diodes. So here we can see this is the medium lens with the mint diode. And here we can see the spectral distribution of the mint diode versus, I think everybody's pretty familiar with like RGB. So red, green, blue. So if we come up here, here we can see the spectral distribution of the blue diode, and, where that lives. Or here we can come into the, scroll faster. It's got to scroll as fast as I talk.
Mm-hmm.
The green diode, and we can see where in actual nanometers that green diode is. So anyway, we don't see such information for DJ level fixtures, mostly because they're using cheaper diodes, and the consistency simply isn't going to be there, and they're not spending the money on the R&D. So you're not going to get the same color mixing quality out of a DJ level fixture as you would out of a professional fixture. And now that's a broad category in and of itself, right? There are certainly better DJ level fixtures and cheaper DJ level fixtures, and you're going to find, more often than not, price follows performance, or performance follows price, rather. So the less money you spend, the less quality it is, the less, tolerances for engineering and design and reliability and color standard. There might be a lot of shift within the red diodes that are acceptable for that batch, for example. So the simple answer, before I get back into explaining all this, is I think the more diodes you have in a DJ level fixture, probably the better. So, and by that I mean if you have an RGB AW plus UV, for example, is probably better, definitely is better than an RGB.
Sure.
If we're trying to mix using an RGB, we're going to find, if we looked at that spectral content, we're going to find some gaps where the yellow would exist. The yellow is an optical illusion that fools our eye, but when we start having pigments and things in the walls or paints or decorations, then we start losing some of that information. And I've talked about this in some of my classes I've done in years past with the evil rubber duck and whatever, but, so I think if we have an RGB AW, that's going to give you the best chance to mix some of those colors that are harder to mix, yellows, pastels, things like that. The UV can be used in conjunction with some of these to bring out some more of that. But we're simply not going to have this level of result with that level of fixture.
Mm-hmm.
It's like asking your Ford to be a Rolls Royce. It just
Certainly
isn't going to,
And in this particular case, you're showing something that's coming out of the Chauvet professional line. So it would,
Correct.
so then it would be if the Chauvet would have in the professional line would have an uplight, you would expect that to have more capability for more accurate color reproduction than the DJ line.
Yeah, you would expect, because they're just aimed at a different customer,
Mm-hmm.
and having not only sold but owned fixtures from both families. I mean, I can tell you there's a huge difference in the way that the Chauvet Pro stuff is built versus the way the Chauvet DJ stuff is built. I mean, just the quality of the product, the housing. Just really all parts about it. I'm looking to see if I can find something here for you that might be helpful.
But again, because of it being a different beast, really, because of the quality of the R&D and all the different little aspects of it, we're certainly at a different price point. So it's as you say, the performance is following the price.
Yeah, so let's take a look. You mentioned, for example, if Chevet Pro had an uplight, and they do, they have a couple of them in the Well series, and you'll notice that here, this is the Well panel, which is a battery-powered wash light, and it's got 24 quad-colored, diodes, so it's kind of a beast. But you can notice that it has a few things like redshift emulation and some other things like that, including WDMX, which is a wireless control protocol on board that's advanced frequency hopping spread spectrum protocol, so it's a lot more reliable than some of the other ones. But you'll notice that down here we do have a photometrics report. So let's take a look. This is with the standard factory optics. And let's see what we get. So here you can see this information is included. It's available to you, and here you can see where some of that spectral output and where I was talking about how maybe not having an amber, you could have some holes in there. But again, they've given this information because the people buying these fixtures are much more particular and discerning. They're maybe working for clients where color matching really matters.
Right. They need to hit that exact tonality of blue, whatever.
Yeah. And just for the sake of fun, let's take a look and see what that street price on that bad boy is. In typical Ben fashion, I didn't prepare for this show at all, so I'm just doing this by the seat of my pants. So just bear with me and enjoy the ride. So I don't know. I've been listening to a lot of Lithium on Sirius XM, and the DJs there are very. That's kind of the tone they take, right? So I've started to adopt that. I'm
You're
just
starting
like,
to get edgy, a little.
Yeah, edgy and
a little crass, I think it might be.
Yeah. And you're not getting any good content out of it. Anyway, all right. So just that's my attempt at being a Lithium DJ, and now I'm done with it. So. The street price for a single one of those Well panels is $1,800.
Okay.
And in a world where we hear from DJs, well, $300 for a wireless uplight, that's really expensive. No, it's not. I mean, now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's not really expensive for them or really expensive for the market they serve. I mean, again, we used the example of Ford and Rolls-Royce earlier.
Yep.
I'm not shopping for a Rolls-Royce. I think they're very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think the shoe fits, right? I get it,
That's the thing is that Chauvet has understood that there's a client for this and there's a client for this.
And Chauvet makes a $300 wireless uplight.
Yep,
so,
and it works wonderfully.
That's really my point it just depends on who you are and more importantly, who your clients are.
Yeah. What their needs are. All right, let's put a break in here, and we'll come back with our next question. All right, our next question, Ben. You mentioned, of course, WDMX. Let's talk a little bit about what you would, some tips for finding or having successful wireless light control. If somebody wanted to do that and they were really, really excited about being able to control and not having to run DMX wires, what are some things they should be thinking about to have success in that?
I think the first thing I would point out is that wireless DMX is not a standard. DMX is a standard, wireless DMX is not. So you have a lot of different protocols out there on the marketplace. You have some of the kind of generic, ones that you find in a lot of, the Chinese fixtures, for example. And then you've got proprietary ones like ADJ Wi-Fi and Chevet DeFi, which are not compatible with each other and are not compatible with these other kind of generic, whatevers. And then you have some. And then we'll call those kind of the prosumer standards. We'll call those kind of the DJ level standards. And then you have professional standards, which are kind of de facto standards because they're so widely used, but they're not. They're still proprietary. So just because they're widely adopted doesn't make them an actual standard. And that would be, for example, like, WDMX or CRMX. And I'll pop up a thing here on that. Because I think this might be another good example of, we just got done looking at professional uplight versus, DJ level uplight. And, whoops, I think I just nuked it.
We had a transmitter of some sort. There we go.
There we go. So,
WDMX.
here we can see, I mean, this is not the kind of wireless DMX transmitter most DJs are used to looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And again, using our example, if those of you who saw the other video, or those of you who are seeing this as part of one video, we talked about a Ford versus a Rolls Royce. This would be the Rolls Royce of wireless DMX. Certainly comes with a higher price tag, but of course, performance follows. Now, that doesn't mean that WDMX has to be prohibitively expensive. They also have their micro series. And I know a lot of DJs using WDMX. But again, I want to be clear, WDMX is a proprietary standard and WDMX is not wireless DMX. It's interesting, if you type in WDMX into like Google, you'll find results for some of the generic ones. They're fooling you. You know, they're keyword spamming, and it's not the same.
Right.
And it won't work with the WDMX.
Goodness.
What's really interesting about this, though, is if we look down here, we can see CRMX support as an option. And kind of one of the things that happened is that the folks that put out CRMX, which is another proprietary wireless DMX transmission method, have now bought wireless solutions and control both standards.
Okay.
And I believe there's a generation of products coming that essentially have both on board and speak both languages. But as you can see, these have that ability to have that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so what makes this better than the other ones? Well, one of the things that makes this a lot better than the other ones we talked about, like the Chevy DeFi and the ADJ Wi-Fi or the generic, whatever wireless DMX, is this is an advanced frequency hopping spread spectrum, which means it. Which, by the way, sidebar, I just noticed there's a special on Netflix about Hedy Lamarr or Hedy Lamarr. Now I get the Blazing Saddles thing stuck in my head. Anyway, she pioneered frequency hopping back in World War II as a way to prevent jamming on torpedoes, and I need to watch that special. It's something that definitely pings my inner nerd. But anyway, so what it does is it moves the information all around the spectrum so that any interruptions or any interference doesn't block the entire signal. It maybe knocks out a few little bits of it, and the signal is able to very easily and agilely get around that interference. So becomes substantially more reliable. You have ranges of sometimes several thousand feet with these. This is how the other half lives. When you want really rock solid wireless DMX, you're going to use something like CRMX or WDMX.
Interesting.
You'll notice here, like it says, this is their 6th generation. They've been doing this for a while. And the people that are paying the kind of money that these things cost expect those results. And, price comes with performance. Sticking with my now somewhat tired example of Ford versus Rolls-Royce, if a Rolls Royce didn't do anything different than a Ford, people would not pay the money for it. If it was the same experience as driving a Ford, people would not spend the money for Rolls Royce.
Yeah, there's that. You get a different experience. Interesting. We might have to dig into that WDMX in a longer format a different night.
I think I have a spectral screenshot here. If we have enough time for me to find it.
Yeah, we should be.
Because I've done this as part of some of the classes I've taught and some of the trainings that I've done. It's just a question of how fast I could possibly find it. This is the problem, kids, when you've made a few hundred PowerPoints in your life.
And you're looking for a keyword.
Yeah, and you're looking for one PowerPoint from a presentation you did. All right, I am reasonably certain it might be in here. Oh, well. Oh, that was interesting. That was a spreadsheet I made a while back, but we'll skip that. I'm like, hey, that's a pretty good spreadsheet. It was comparing the transmission power in milliwatts of the various wireless DMX standards, but that's for another day, I think. So, all right, I believe this PowerPoint is trying to load. And yes, okay, good. So y'all getting some super awesome bonus content here that normally people pay a lot of money for. So let's go here. Okay, so we see you see the screen where it
Yep.
says Chevet DeFi, and we can see this spectral spike.
Mm-hmm.
That is where our signal lives. You'll notice this is the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, same as Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and others. So we'll notice that here we have these frequencies, and you can see there, in megahertz, there's this one's looks like somewhere around 2478.
Yep. Yep.
Call it good enough. And here we can see this is when you change channels on your Chevet DeFi, you are literally changing frequency just like you would with your wireless mic. In an oversimplified sense, we're simply changing frequencies. So if we have interference over here, we would just move somewhere over here, for
Sure.
example.
Yep.
And here you can see the ADJ Wi-Fi. It's a bit wider signal you can see, but again, it's fairly local. And the rest of the spectrum is fairly clean. These things here are not part of that signal. They're just something anomalous in the testing. This was not done in a purely anechoic radio environment. So.
Sure.
And here you can see WDMX, and you can see the difference. I mean, it's everywhere all at once. So whereas the Wi-Fi is kind of in one spot and the DeFi is in one spot, WDMX is everywhere. It's spreading that information all around. So, we can see and hear it's now paired and actively sending a signal, and it's working pretty hard. So
Interesting.
yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it. So again, anything that interferes with anything is going to, it's going to be difficult for it to interfere with the signal meaningfully enough. And by the way, I have to show this too. This is actually in my presentation. So I mentioned Hedy Lamarr a second ago. I actually had this in my presentation. So that's why I'm so excited about the Netflix special. So
Funny.
anyway, yeah, I know. Anyway, moving on.
Okay, let's hit one last question before we wrap up for tonight, because up next you guys will be jumping out to djntv.com/chill for the Tuesday Night Music Show. But first, okay, Ben, last question for tonight. We've talked about DJ controllers, and they have a variety of quality of mic amps or mic preamps in the units. What's the best way to test and know which ones are better quality? Or is there a way to test those out to know if this controller has a better one than that controller?
I think the simplest answer here is going to be to listen. I think that it might be kind of fun if we were able to get a bunch of these controllers and actually try to measure that preamp. Maybe if we were able to send a signal in and measure a signal out, and look for distortion and look for how the sound is shaped or otherwise contoured by the preamp, and then of course the subsequent signal processing within the unit. But I think that's a pretty big ask for, even me. It would be difficult to, get time with that laboratory level gear to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just listen, I think, is the key. And more and more we're asking DJ controllers and DJ preamps to do different things, where I think, some of the controller manufacturers imagine DJs as people who are a bit more loud. They're shouting on the mic, the hype man, so to speak, or, everybody put your hands in the air.
Yeah.
And so, there may be, crafting those preamps with that in mind. Sometimes, and you know what? I hope you send this to every company that makes controllers. Sometimes I don't think they have anything in mind. I think they just are pulling this right out of their backside.
Sure.
I think sometimes these preamps are so awful. I'm like, well, where'd you find that one?
Mm-hmm.
That's not painted with a broad brush, but you know what? If you are a guy who works for, or a gal who works for a company that makes DJ controllers and that hurts your feelings, good. Go back in there and design a better preamp. So anyway, boy, I feel better getting that off my chest. How about you?
Yeah, a little therapeutic there for you, I think.
Yeah, it's very cathartic. So anyway, I think the simplest answer to that would be to compare and to listen. And there's a lot of variables that go into this too, right? What kind of mic capsule are we using, that sort of thing. But ultimately, the preamp, quality preamps are quality preamps, and it's a big ask to, hope that they would put in, an SSL or a Digico preamp into one of these boards. I mean, I know that's not going to happen, but for crying out loud, you can go buy a half decent analog mixer for a couple $100 that's got, 6 or 7 decent preamps in it. So we're not talking about a lot of dough here to put a decent preamp in these things. My 2 cents.
So you mentioned the mic in the mic capsule, would it be better, say we all are very familiar with the Shure 58, the SM58, if we would go and, because most DJ boards don't have phantom power out, but say if we would buy a higher end microphone that needed phantom power and we put some sort of a phantom power device in line with that so it would function, would something like that be helpful to give a better microphone experience on some controllers?
Yeah, I think what we can't fix in the preamp, we could change with the microphone. And we've talked about microphones in the past. SM58 has a fairly low response millivolts per Pascal. It's not a very responsive mic. It's kind of a dull and flat mic, I think. Everybody's pretty familiar with it, but in terms of the amount of energy you get out of an SM58 for the sound that you put into it, it's not very much. Now that can be great if you're screaming in the mic, because it's going to take that abuse. It's going to take you screaming in that mic. It's going to take a lot of acoustic energy to produce enough electrical energy to be meaningful. Whereas something like you mentioned, a condenser, where we have phantom power, so now we have a membrane mic as opposed to a moving coil mic, requires far less acoustic energy to create a very loud acoustic signal or electrical signal, excuse me. And I think I could probably find this chart really quick. This is the hey, watch Ben search through his hard drive to see how fast he can find stuff.
I think the part that people will appreciate is that it's like there's that hard drive that he has with him must go travel with you everywhere, because it's like, oh yeah, I got a presentation from 5 years ago right here. Oh yeah, and here's another present. It's like, how do you?
Well, it does, because it's all in Dropbox. But so here we go. This is a comparison of mics that I made previously, and what we can see here right off the get is there's our SM58. It looks like this one does not have the millivolts per Pascal on it, so I may have to go back and dig. But this shows the frequency response, and here we can see some of these charts include graphs for proximity effect. But this isn't the one I wanted to show you. So stand by. Back to the hard drive. Everybody just talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
And of course, after this, Brian and Jay and John and Howie and the crew will be doing the Tuesday Night Music Show recording. That'll be at djntv.com/chill. So you guys can pop out there and check that out. And yes, Robin, thank you for sharing the AnalFX Pro link there. That link is also down in the description of the video. So now what do we have here?
Okay, so what we can see here is this is how we measure a mic sensitivity. And I mentioned earlier the millivolts per Pascal. So what we can see here is that when we give this mic a Pascal, we get 1.85 millivolts of electrical energy out of the microphone. And this is our SM58 we were just talking about.
Okay.
By comparison, if we look at the Beta 58, same 1 Pascal, we now have 2.8 millivolts.
Can you scroll down a little bit for us? That's just off the screen for me.
You bet I can.
There it is. Thank you.
For our faithful viewers, John, anything. So we can see that substantial difference here, and these are both dynamic microphones. It's just a difference between the Shure SM58 and the Shure Beta 58. So let's take a look here now. These are also still dynamic microphones. But we can see that, if we go to the ND76, it's 2.4 millivolts per Pascal. And if we look at the ND96, that's now 3.3 millivolts per Pascal. So much more electrical energy for the acoustic energy. And again, we're still just looking at dynamic microphones here. If we were to,
any of those would work on a typical DJ board, pretty much.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, if you're using an ND76 or a Beta 58, you're getting more electrical energy for the acoustic energy putting in. Now, is that better? Well, it depends. If you're already really hammering on that preamp and you're finding that you need to turn it way down on the DJ controller, then an SM58 might be better because it's not going to give you much electrical energy out of that, know. And of course, we looked at a minute ago the frequency response differences and that sort of thing. So,
sure.
Engineering is really kind of a series of compromises here.
Yeah.
Gosh, I was just looking to see. I know I have condenser microphones here somewhere. So actually, you know what? No, that's not it either. Shoot, sorry. Well, I have a shameless plug here. I know we have this information on a show on the NLFX YouTube. So
Nice.
if you want to stray away from the DJNTV channel for just a quick minute and watch that video, but then come right back, I
Do you
have
remember
that
what
information
what
on.
were you talking about in the video? So a title or a keyword or two that you used.
That's a great question. The
Thank you.
mic comparisons or something like that.
Okay,
It's something to
so
do with
just give them
microphones.
kind of an idea of what to go look for.
Tell you what, just go to our YouTube and watch them all,
It's hard
and
to,
then come back.
and then
We
and then
need to, we
there'll
need
be
to
a
do some.
test
Then
on.
come back to the DJNTV
There'll
channel.
be a
So.
test on everything you picked up. So, hey Ben, our time is up, my friend. We need to bounce here. Brian and Jay and the crew are going to get ready to go here in a bit. So, thank you much for taking some time this evening, and it's great to see you back in Minnesota. And hopefully, you'll be able to spend a little time with the fam for some turkey and be back at it.
Yep, home for Thanksgiving and then right back out on the road. But then home for Christmas, and that's something to be thankful for sure. So
Yeah.
in the spirit of Thanksgiving, that's when the show is being taped. It's a couple days before Thanksgiving, taped, recorded, whatever. Days showing all the white hair on my beard here.
There you are.
I'm thankful for you, John, and for your family, and the 20 plus years we've been able to be friends and work together in the industry. And viewers, I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful that you've provided a home for me where I can be a nerd and still serve a useful purpose and have a good time. So
There you are. Yep.
hopefully all of you and yours have a happy Thanksgiving.
That's for sure. Everyone at djntv.com/chill with the music show coming up next, and have yourself a wonderful Thanksgiving. We'll catch you next week. Good night, everybody.